everybody, welcome back to the Sister Mountain podcast. In this episode, I'm going to be sharing everything I've been working on this month, including a beret that ended up with an unexpected new owner, as well as the pair of socks that sent me down the rabbit hole of sock knitting once again. I'll also be sharing what's been on my needles, and it has been surprisingly a lot, considering that I'm normally a monogamous knitter, and a few exciting plans on the horizon. So settle in, grab your knitting, and let's get started. So in case we haven't met before, my name is Claire Mountain Manapon. I am the knitting pattern designer and teacher behind Sister Mountain. I also teach an online course called Sweater Design School that teaches knitters how to design their first sweater pattern. I live here in London, England with my lovely husband Ulysses and our 2.5-year-old toddler Nico. And on this channel I teach all about knitting pattern design, and then once a month I share a podcast episode like this where I talk about all of the things I have been working on. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, please stick around and subscribe to the channel because there's lots more where this has come from. Now, before we get into what I've been working on this month, I just want to share what I'm wearing. So this is an old favourite of mine. I published it back in 2017, so yeah, it's pretty old. And it's called the Split Sewn Sweater. This is knitted up in Lang Yarns Lioness DK, and I used the colour Moonstone, I believe. The pattern itself is my first sweater pattern, and it is shamefully sized, that it's not size inclusive at all. And so I actually have plans to re-release it later this year with my full size range that I use on all of my patterns now. So I'm gonna give it a few tweaks, you know, smarten it up, and maybe, you know, adjust the construction to make it more in line with how I would design things today. So yeah, you can look forward to that at the end of this year. But yeah, that's what I'm wearing today. It has these lovely side panels. I don't know if you can see it in the video. But yeah, it's just a lovely classic sweater with some nice detailing, and I am looking forward to extending the sizing for all of you. So let's get started with finished objects from this month. I have 3 finished objects, and the first one of them you have seen before. It's my Cepes Beret by Ysolda Teague. I knitted this in a strand of West Yorkshire spinners, the Croft DK, held with a strand of Shibui Silk Cloud, obviously no longer around because they are, Shibui's not around anymore. But I had a strand of it left over that they gifted me back when I was potentially going to design something for them. And I figured it was a really good colour match with the colour that I used in the Croft DK, and I really wanted a grey hat. I don't own a grey hat, I really want one. Sadly, this is not going to be my hat, and I'll explain. So I think, as I mentioned in the previous episode, I don't swatch for hats. I do if they're my own design, but if I'm knitting from other people's designs, I just kind of wing it and hope for the best. I kind of have an idea of how my own, I'm a tight knitter, so generally I have to go up a needle size, and that generally will give me the correct gauge. Obviously, that is a very general statement, as in sometimes it goes wrong. So this, when I knitted it up, it ended up comically large, and I'll share a photo on the screen now of how it looked when it first came out. And I just couldn't even keep it on my head, as in it just like covered my face. So yeah, that wasn't great. So what I ended up doing was I thought, okay, well, this is so large that I could felt this and it would probably fit. So I chucked it in the washing machine, and it came out relatively smaller, enough to, it made a fair amount of difference. It did end up a little bit matted though because of it. But anyway, that's what I did. But you'll see, I'll put it on feet now. It's not the fit that I was going for. So I don't even know how this is gonna look because I can't see the viewfinder, but yeah, this is how it is, and you can see there is a lot of room. It doesn't kind of stretch onto my head, and actually if I just let it would just go over my eyes. Now, something to note is that the pattern suggests optionally putting in an elastic in the kind of edging. And I didn't do this because I didn't really want to buy some elastic. I didn't have any in my stash. And this kind of was like a stash project. Like I had both of these yarns in the stash. I didn't want to buy anything new for it. So I thought, nah, it'll be fine. I don't need it. It was optional. So I thought if it's optional, then I won't bother getting any. And that was probably a mistake, because actually, if I had added elastic to this hat, then it probably would have fitted at this stage. You know, it just needs that extra cinch that the elastic probably would have offered it. But anyway, that is what it is. Now, I'm not really sure what happened with the sizing here, because when I measure this and compare it to the gauge that the pattern suggested, this, now that it's been felted, and I didn't check my gauge before I felted it, but now that it has been felted, the gauge is actually tighter, as in it's got more stitches per 10 centimeters than the pattern recommends, and so surely it should be smaller, right? But it's massive. So yeah, I don't know what's gone on here, but yeah, it's just not come out the right size, unfortunately. And I measured my head, I chose the size that was supposed to fit, but yeah, it's just not worked out. But there is a happy ending to this story, and it's that my husband saw me playing around with this, trying it on, trying to get it to fit, and he's like, oh, I really like that, can I try it on? Tried it on and it looks so good on him. He's one of those people that just looks good in everything. He tried it on, it looked amazing on him. He kind of styles it, he wears a lot of like flat caps, and he kind of styled it like a flat cap. It just looks so good on him. And he has a head that is about just over an inch bigger in circumference than mine, so it's now his hat. So all is well that ends well. As much as I would really like a grey hat in my collection, so be it. It didn't work out, but at least this hat is going to go to a good home. So the next FO that I want to share with you is my Broken Rope socks by Summer Lee. Now, I've recently started watching Summer Lee's podcast, like her YouTube channel, and it's so good, it's so enjoyable, and it's really given me the sock knitting bug. So I pretty much decided that I need to start knitting some socks. I go through phases with socks where I'll knit a bunch and then I just don't knit any for ages. And I can sense it in my soul that I'm about to go down that rabbit hole of sock knitting again, and become slightly obsessive with it, which is fine by me. So like I said, these are the Broken Rope socks. These are from the Hello Sailor sock set, I believe. And I'm just going to knit every sock from that sock set, I've decided. So this is the first one. I used a new to me sock yarn, but it's one that I've heard tons about around, you know, over the years. And this is Lang Yarns Jawoll, I think you would pronounce it. I think it's merino, 75% merino, 25% nylon, I want to say, blend. And I used taupe for like the kind of main colour, and then the contrast is jade teal, I think it's called, or teal jade, let me check. Jade teal, okay, cool. What I like about this yarn, I mean, it has an amazing range of colours, which is like the major plus for me, and also it comes with like a little spool of reinforcement thread that you can knit into the heels and the toes in order to, I guess, reinforce them. So you knit it at the same time, and it's like, I guess it's nylon, probably 100% nylon, but it's in a colourway that matches the yarn, which is really nice. So I did that. Now, I really like these socks. They came out really nice. The stitch is beautiful. You can see that I've worn them a fair amount already. I'm a sucker for a broken rib, and so this speaks to me. I like socks that have a bit of texture, but they're not too fussy. Because I don't dress over fussy, and sometimes if I have like frilly or lacy or fancy socks on, I just don't feel like me. So these speak to me because they have a nice texture. I can play around with colour, but they they still feel like me. And I mean, you'll find out as I reveal more of my weird quirks probably over the coming podcasts that I'm a bit fussy about certain things. I really like my socks to either match my shoes or match my trousers. And I have these trousers. They are just incredible trousers that look like trousers, like tailored trousers, but they're made of jersey and they feel like sweatpants. Incredible. Anyway, they're like a very similar colour to this, and for me that is very satisfying. So when I wear them, they just, I don't know, it's a weird quirk, but I like my socks to match my trousers or my shoes, and these do that, and I still get that pop of colour, which is fun. So what else can I say about this? They are knitted from the cuff down. They use a heel flap and gusset. That sounds weird when I say it, but I think that's what it's called. Yeah, heel flap and gusset. What else would you call it? And it feels nice and sturdy. The toe is graphited at the very end. And I must admit, I wasn't super happy with how that came out, and I don't know if I can show it adequately now, because to be honest, maybe I'm being a bit fussy. Something that is nice about knitting a sock toe up is that the toe can look quite neat, doing the what do you call it, the magic cast on, Judy's magic cast on. And grafting can sometimes end up with a toe where like the corners are a bit pointy. And on my first sock, it looked super pointy. I want to say this one was maybe my first sock. And the corners just felt like they kind of pointed out a little bit. Whereas the second sock, I found an article on Modern Daily Knitting that kind of talked you through options as to like what you can do to reduce that pointy edge. I think they called it like dog ears or something. And I used those in this one, and it has slightly reduced. I mean, it's not a major issue. Blocking obviously makes it far better than it was when I first knitted it, so they're not even that pointy. But I'm probably going to explore ways to make it even less pointy and more rounded, maybe by not doing the wedge toe in the way that it's done. Either way, I wear these a ton already. They're so cozy. I forgot how lovely it feels to wear wool socks with your shoes. It just feels heavenly. These came out too big, I'm going to be honest, because it's been ages since I've knitted socks, and I'm still trying to figure out the fabric that I like. I chose to cast on the 64 stitch circumference, and I actually think that's probably good for my my foot size, but because I'm a tight knitter, I thought I'll just go up a size on the needles. But it turns out that Summer Lee is also a tight knitter. So actually these ended up off gauge pretty significantly. So they are a bit looser, as in they fit, but like, you know, in a sock, you want it to be kind of snug. And they're not super snug. Like they could potentially slide around, I imagine, over time, because as you wear a sock, it tends to stretch out. I'm not having that issue currently, but I do feel that the sock would benefit from a kind of closer fit. And also, I find that socks tend to wear more when the sock is kind of looser and sliding around in there and kind of creating more friction in your shoe. So yeah, I now know that. I'm going to choose a smaller needle size for the next one. And in fact, I just cast on straight away another one of these socks, and I'll show you them later in a smaller needle size, and the fabric looks good. So yeah, lesson learned. And then the final FO, which I kind of hesitate to even call it an FO because it is such a small project, but I did want to show you because I am perhaps unreasonably delighted with how this came out. So I've got, you know, longish hair. I tend to wear scrunchies a fair amount of time. And I really wanted to knit a scrunchie. Now, I have seen these floating around for ages. I always said I was going to do it, but just never made the time because I want to wear a knitted scrunchie, but do I want to knit a knitted scrunchie? It's not that exciting to me, but I do want the finished object. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to do it. I had leftover yarn from knitting those socks, and I decided to knit myself a little scrunchie. And it looks so cute, and I'm so pleased with it. I feel very giddy about it, which is ridiculous when you consider, like, you know, I knit much more complicated things, but this is just really fun. I've used it a lot. It's a colour that is in my wardrobe a fair amount. Again, like I said, I can be a bit like fussy about certain things, and I tend to dress in a certain colour palette, as in I'm very intentional about the clothes that I buy and the clothes that I make, and I tend to stick to the same colour palette when I'm buying them because it allows me to mix and match. Like, I've got my kind of core neutrals, and I've got like my general colours that I pair with those neutrals, and then I have certain colours that I have as like pops, and that is, I like structure and kind of frameworks, and that works for me in terms of like how I dress myself and the things that I make for myself or buy for myself. And this is like one of my core neutral colours that I tend to wear, and I really love that I can even incorporate it into my hair. Something very satisfying about that. So what I plan to do is, whenever I finish a project and I have leftovers and I don't necessarily have like a scrunchie in that colour, then I'm just going to knit up a little one. I won't say that I loved knitting this. Oh gosh, I should tell you who designed this. This is the Soho Scrunchie by Tori Yu. And yeah, I will say that I didn't necessarily enjoy knitting this. The pattern is great, like there's nothing wrong with the pattern. It's very easy to follow. But I found that like doing the kind of provisional cast on and then working like a small amount in the round before like grafting it, it felt fussy, like it felt a bit fiddly on my needles. I used magic loop. I don't know if that was maybe why it felt a bit fussy, but yeah, it just felt a bit like fiddly. But the end result is amazing, and it knitted up so quick. I got it done in like one day. So yeah, I'm super happy with it, and I'm definitely going to make more. So now let's get into widths. Now, I am typically a monogamous knitter, as in I will have like one project on the needles, I'll work on it obsessively until it's finished and then move on. And the reason I do this is because I typically find that if I have multiple projects on the needles, I have no idea what to work on. Everything is a good option. Like, I enjoy most of my projects, and so like, how do I choose? And that is very stressful for me. I can't explain it. I know people love that, but I like I said, I like frameworks, I like structure, and so having multiple projects with no clear idea on which one I should work on just feels too much for me. So I was kind of pondering this the other day, I say the other day, several weeks ago, and I remembered that I have this thing on my phone. It's like an app for like a spinning wheel. It's like it chooses things for you, right? And I had it for when I used to play The Sims, which I've not played in a while, but anyway, I love The Sims. Please send me a comment if you also love The Sims. It's just so good. Anyway, I have this wheel spinning app for when I used to play The Sims, and I used to just play silly games on there. And it was really fun. It would like pick things that I needed to do on The Sims. Anyway, I had this sudden brainwave, like I could just put all of my projects into this wheel and then the wheel can pick for me. For me, this is like a game changer. I love it. So I have all of my projects in there. I also have a section for like mending, because I have a few bits and pieces that need mending, and I always procrastinate on mending, so I added that to the mix. And then I just, whenever I've got a moment to make something, to sit down and knit or whatever, I just spin the wheel and see what the wheel picks for me. And to get even nerdier with it, I also combine it with I'm revealing everything now. You're all going to think I'm strange, but I combine it with the Pomodoro method, as in I set a timer for 25 minutes on my phone, I work on that project for 25 minutes, and then, you know, if I want to continue, I will. But if I'm ready for a break, for a change, then I just, you know, spin the wheel again and pick something else. And it's nice because I find that my hands get less sore when I'm doing extended knitting if I'm working on different projects. So yeah, I've been spinning the wheel and it's brought me a lot of joy, and it's also meant that I've now got 5 projects on the needles. 5 projects is so much for me. So yeah, I don't know, I blame the wheel. So the first whip I want to share with you today is one that you've seen before, and it's the Welsh Mosaic blanket by Natalie Caruso. This is actually a crochet project, which is not typical for me, but I do enjoy a crochet blanket, probably more so than a knitted blanket. But anyway, let me show you what I have been doing. Now, as you can see, I've made a lot of progress on this. I started this project back in September last year, I believe. And up until last month, I'd only done one kind of row of motifs. And I think there might be 10 overall. I want to say 10, roughly. So I'd not got a ton done, and it had really been kind of hibernating. It was no way a priority project for me, so I'd barely worked on it, to be honest. But now that it's on the wheel, it's been getting regular attention from me. And I have almost completed the second row of motifs, so I'm super pleased with that. I am making this because I fell in love with a Welsh blanket, and I've been kind of googling around trying to find one that's within my price range, you know, my budget, and I just couldn't. Like, they're all, rightly so, very expensive because they are handcrafted and made of just like beautiful fibre, but I couldn't afford it, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to see if I can find an appropriate pattern on Ravelry. I found one that uses a mosaic overlay crochet technique. Please excuse me if I'm wrong, but I'm not really a crocheter. I mean, I can crochet, but it's not like I'm by no means an expert. But I'm really enjoying this project now. I'm going row by row. I can't figure out the charts. I find it a bit confusing, so I'm just literally going row by row in the pattern. So it's slow going. I think I'm on row like 56 of 280 something, so I have a long way to go, and each row takes me about 25 minutes. So this is an extended project. It's going to take me a long time to do, but yeah, it's coming out really nice. I used Paintbox yarns. Let me just double check. So it's the 100% wool worsted in vanilla cream and pure black. I chose this yarn because it's cheap and cheerful. As you can imagine, this project requires a lot of yardage, and I needed a yarn that was going to be affordable. I also wanted something superwash because, you know, I've got a 2.5-year-old. There are spillages, there's just mess, right? Toddlers are messy, and I don't want to be too precious about the blanket. So I want it to be something that I can just chuck in the washing machine if something gets spilt on it, which inevitably it will. And so far I'm enjoying it. Like, it feels nice, it feels squishy, feels bouncy. I have a feeling that when it's washed, it's going to soften up a little bit more as well. One thing I will say about this yarn, it is really splitty, and when I'm crocheting, that can like slow me down because I'm kind of catching plies with my hook. But I mean, small price to pay for the overall look of the piece. I'm really pleased with it. So yeah, I'm going to keep on chipping away at it. It's going to take me, I've got many more hours left to go on this. Probably like 100 hours, probably more than 100 hours left to go on this. But yeah, it's a lovely piece, and I will just keep letting the wheel tell me when to work on it. So yeah, that's how I'm doing with this project. Now, the next project that I want to share with you that I'm currently working on is one I talked about in my previous episode as like a potential thing that I wanted to cast on. And I made a lot of progress on this. So this is the Eva cardigan by Petite Knit. I'm using Sandnes Garn Peer Gynt in Sunny Lime, and this colour is just bringing joy to my soul. I'm really enjoying a pop of like yellowy green in my wardrobe, and so knitting on this just feels joyful experience. So yeah, I've done so much really. I've got one sleeve on, I've got the button band on, and I've just started the second sleeve. This will definitely be done by the next time I record. So yeah, overall very pleased with it. The yarn, like I said, is Peer Gynt. I've never worked with Peer Gynt before. I have this thing now where I'm like, if I'm knitting from other people's patterns and it's a yarn that I haven't used before and I'm kind of intrigued in it, then I will try and get the recommended yarn if I can access it. Because it helps me as a designer to try new yarns, get exposed to yarns that maybe I haven't worked with before, knit it up in a project and see how I like it, so that maybe I could potentially use it in my own designs. I find it quite fun. It's exposing me to new yarns that I maybe wouldn't have otherwise tried. So yeah, I really like the yarn. It feels woolly and kind of, I don't want to say rustic, because it feels, I don't know, it's got texture, like it feels kind of crunchy, I guess, but it isn't by no means scratchy. Like I don't feel any itch whatsoever under my chin, so that's a good sign. I do have a tolerance for more rustic yarns, I guess, but yeah, I can't even feel a prickle. So, and what I found is that when I washed my swatch, it softened up so much. So I imagine that will be the case with the sweater as well. The way that it's constructed is it's a satin sleeve style. So essentially you cast on the back neck and then you do shaping along the back until you kind of reach the width of the shoulders, and then you pick up the front shoulders from those kind of shaped edges, and then you work the whole kind of upper body yoke as one, because you pick up stitches along the edge. It's what I would consider like the Coco Knits method of doing a satin sleeve. It's my preferred way of doing a satin sleeve. It's the way that I use when I'm designing a satin sleeve, and it's what I teach my students in sweater design school. I like it. It gives a really nice tailored fit. And yeah, I'm enjoying working it. It's coming out really nice. I like the pattern overall. Like, it's really well written. One element that did confuse me was the directions on the buttons. Sorry, the buttonholes. The wording just like tripped me up a little bit, and I had to do some Googling, but after Googling, all was revealed and I was able to do them, and they came out, you know, neat. Slightly more loopy than I would like, but no big issue really. What I do like is that the button bands are really thick. Like, they are, yeah, like double the kind of thickness that you would typically see on a button band, and I really like that. It feels more contemporary, feels more cozy. What I like about this garment overall is that it's kind of a classic sweater, and it's simple, that it really carries the kind of bold colour really well, and the colour is almost like the, you know, the focal point, and then the elegance of the cardigan, just, yeah, it works really well with it. So yeah, I'm enjoying knitting it up and it's going really well. I did buy some buttons for it already. I got them from Textile Garden, which is my just dream button shop. It's all online. I know that they do go to various kind of yarn shows around as well, so you may have seen them there if you're in the UK. But yeah, Textile Garden is amazing. It has almost any button you can imagine, and they have like really beautiful, stylish buttons. Not too many novelty buttons, which have their place, but for me, I like a very classic button, and I can always find one in Textile Garden. So let me just go grab those buttons and I'll show you. So this is the button that I chose. For context, when I'm choosing a button for a cardigan, typically I like to match the colour of the button to the colour of the cardigan. But I could not find a button in this colour in the correct size. You know, these are pretty big buttons. I think the recommendation is like 25mm to 28mm, something along those lines. They're a chunky button, and I didn't want to choose a smaller button because proportionally it's just not going to work on that really thick button band. So instead of using a matching colour, which I couldn't find in the right size, I decided that I would choose a neutral button in a kind of taupey greyish colour, and this is what I got. Now, it's a lovely button. Like, I can see myself using it. It's got a really nice kind of grain to it. I can see it being really practical, but I'm just not sure about the colour on this. I think I probably need to like block the sweater and then lay the buttons out on it. I'm still on the fence at the moment. Yeah, I just feel like it feels quite contrasting and it just doesn't feel like the right colour. I almost wonder whether I need to go darker, or maybe I need to try and find a button to match. I just love a matching button. But yeah, I'm not fully convinced. Either way, I will use these buttons. They are really beautiful and I know that I will find a project that these will be great on. But for now, I'm gonna stay on the fence and see whether I actually end up using them. So my next whip is a design by me. This is my Nimble t-shirt. Again, I talked about this on the previous episode and it was something that I was kind of umming and ahhing which one I should cast on next. I did both. So this is how it's going so far. This is a design that I plan on releasing in July. It's going to be a just a classic striped t-shirt, but with a twist because it's got these beautiful textured stripes on the body. Now, I'm using Knitting for Olive Merino. I can't remember if this was the first time I'd used it. I think it is. I've since used it in other swatches and various things I'm working on, but I think this is my first thing I've knitted up in it. And it's a lovely yarn. It feels really nice to knit with. When I compare this to like the Peer Gynt, if I start knitting this straight after I've knitted the Peer Gynt, I can really sense the difference in softness. It's a very springy yarn, like it feels nice in my hands, it feels squishy, and I'm really pleased with it. The main colour is called Putty. It's kind of like an off-white. It almost has like a kind of, I don't know, like a coolish greeny colour to it, but it's not green. But it's just like, if you look at the tone, it's not pure white, and I don't particularly like a stark white, so I'm pleased with it. And then the contrast colours I've got are, I think it's soft blue, dusty banana, and dusty rose. And you only use a very small amount of these yarns in the stripes. So I'm hoping this is going to be a really nice kind of like scrap busting project that you can just have, you know, 3 fingering weight yarns in different colours that complement one another and incorporate them into the stripes. So that is kind of the goal with that. Now I am, whoops, got my yarns poking into each other. There we go. I have finished the upper body, shaped the sleeves. Again, this is a satin sleeve sweater. It actually uses the same construction as the Eva cardigan that I just mentioned, that kind of cocoa knit style method of constructing a top-down satin sleeve. And so it has kind of like the shoulder shaping, and then you're knitting the sleeves as part of the yoke essentially for the whole sweater. So you work in the round right from the beginning. You're not picking those sleeves up afterwards. So it works well with this because the stripes can kind of go from the body straight into the sleeves, and it's very seamless. So yeah, I've just got to the point where I split the body and the sleeves, and I'm just going to knit that body straight down. Now I am still deciding what the trims are going to be like on this. I know for sure that the neck is going to be a ribbed trim, and I actually am looking forward to adding that because I always think the neckline looks a little bit funny when you are when you've just got it like open like this. It's kind of stretched out and curly, and I'm looking forward to that being neat, and it gives you a real feel for how the garment is going to look. Now the trims that I'm going to use on the cuffs and on the hem, I'm still not quite sure about. The initial thought was to perhaps do some sort of like folded hem, so it's really clean, and that is what I'm erring towards, and swatch wise it looks nice, but I need to see it in the garment, because what I don't want, and what I have seen in other knitted pieces is that sometimes when you have that folded hem, it has a tendency to flip. I do not want that. So I'm gonna trial it. I'm gonna see how it is in the sample, and then decide from there what I want it to do. But this will have short sleeves. It's gonna be like a classic tee. And yeah, I'm super pleased with how this is coming out, and I'm already thinking about like other colorways that I can do this in, hoping to knit a second sample. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, super cute. Okay, so my next whip is the Copenhagen cardigan, and apologies, this looks terrible because I had to steal the needles for one of my other projects. But anyway, this is the Copenhagen cardigan by Petite Knit. I'm knitting it in Rowan Alpaca Classic in the Peacock colorway, I believe. And this actually isn't something for me. So for context, it was my mum's birthday a couple of weeks ago, and for her birthday I told her that I was going to knit her anything that she wanted, and just, you know, we would work together to choose something. So what she did is, I have some sweater quantities in stash. I kind of showed her one of the sweater quantities is her favourite colour, this one. And she was like, yes, I want a cardigan in this. So got the yarn sorted, and then we start browsing Ravelry together, trying to find a pattern that would suit the yarn and be the style that she wanted. And we eventually decided upon the Copenhagen cardigan because it has a really nice high neck, which she wanted. She's got a lot of cardigans with V-necks, and she wanted one with a high neck this time, like a crew neck. And she also loved that it has pockets. So yeah, I cast it on actually on her birthday day. I saw her a couple of days beforehand, but on her birthday I cast it on, and this is how it's going so far. So apologies, terrible podcasting here, because it is all just in a loop right now. Didn't even do it at the end of the row. So it's a classic top-down raglan. You shape the neck using short rows, and the raglan is very standard, and as in it's not like a compound raglan. So you're using the same shaping rate on the sleeves and the body, and it remains the same throughout. I don't know what else to say really. The button bands are knitted on, which isn't my favourite because I feel like you just lose that firmness. But you know, it's fine. It's knitting up nicely. I did find, let me grab this. I did find the perfect buttons for it. Here they are. These are again from Textile Garden. They are a Caruso button, and Caruso buttons are one of my favorites because they have that grain of that you find with like horn buttons, but they're made with they're made from Caruso nuts basically. These are the type of buttons that I always loved when I worked at the tailors, and I was helping people choose and design their suits. They could choose their buttons, and we had a lovely range of Caruso buttons, and yeah, I discovered them there, and I've never lost my love for them. They take dye really nicely, and as you can see, like, this is an amazing match. The colour is perfect. I showed my mum the other day and she was so happy with it. So yeah, I'm truly delighted with it. There's no deadline on this one. The one that I'm knitting that I showed previously, the Nimble t-shirt, that does have a bit of a deadline because I want to get it ready for July. This one, as much as I want to get it done sooner rather than later, it's kind of one of those projects that I'm just going to have ticking along, keep it in the rotation of things that I'm working on, and it should be done quite quickly. My mum is a small woman, like I'm knitting the smallest size, so I normally knit usually like the 3rd size, maybe the 4th size. So it's already kind of growing quicker than what I'm used to, and you know, the gauge itself is quite like an open gauge. It's quite an airy fabric. It progresses quickly for sure, and so I think that even though I'm not like furiously knitting on it, it should get done pretty quickly. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how my mum responds to it. I had a lot of fun because my mum sometimes finds it hard getting clothes to fit her properly. And so while she was here, she was visiting us around the time of our birthdays. and I gave her like a full body measurement. I took all of her measurements like I would have done back when I worked at the tailor's, and it's great. So I've got like her full measurements on hand. I can kind of adapt the sweater to fit her really, really well, and I know that that is going to feel like such a luxury for her. I've actually never knitted my mum a full garment before. I've knitted her a lot of accessories over the years, but never a full sweater or cardigan or anything. So yeah, I'm very excited about it, and I really love the yarn that she chose, and I'm looking forward to see what she thinks of it. Okay, so the final whip that I've been working on is another pair of the broken rope socks. So this time I'm using Yarwoll again, but this time I'm using, I think the colour was called Dusty Pink, I think. And you can see here that rather than doing the gym socks version, which is what I did for the first version, I'm doing the pinstripe version. So I'm just doing, you know, a small mini stripe every few rounds, and it's coming out so cute. The contrast colour here is the leftover taupe yarn from the previous socks and the scrunchie as well. So you can see I had a fair amount left over, and it should be enough to do both socks and probably even have more left over. But yeah, these are going along really nicely. I'm using a smaller needle size this time, and I can already tell like the fabric feels firmer. I think the fit is going to be better. I suspect that they will probably wear better because, like I said, they're not going to wear as much when they're not like rolling, like slipping around in my socks. So I'm at the point now where I finished the leg. I've just started the heel flap. So actually I can show you what I was talking about with that reinforcement thread, if I can find it in here somewhere. Here we go. So yeah, you knit it and it's the same colour as the yarn, which I just think is very, very cool. And I was also thinking that this would be so useful for later on when, you know, maybe I've got holes in the socks. I can use it when I'm like darning them. So cool. So yeah, these are the broken rope socks from that Hello Sailor sock set that I was talking about, and yeah, second one. So I'm enjoying it. Same size I've cast on, literally just gone down a needle size, and I think the fit is going to be top notch. So that's everything I've been working on this month. So next I'm going to get into my plans for the coming month, but before I do that, I would love you to leave a comment and let me know what is your favourite sock pattern. I can tell that I'm about to go down a big sock knitting rabbit hole, as I often do, and I would love your suggestions. I can anticipate that I'm going to be doing lots of sock knitting, and my knowledge of patterns out there at the moment is kind of limited. And so any recommendations that you have will be greatly appreciated. Okay, so the first plan I've got for the coming month is once I have finished my Nimble t-shirt, which I will do, I need to really have it done in the next couple of weeks because of the timeline for getting the pattern out. So I should have the Nimble t-shirt done in the next couple of weeks, which will give me time to cast on a new design. Now, this is an unnamed design. In fact, I don't even think I've finished writing up the pattern yet. It's all in this spreadsheet, but I'm going to be doing it in the Fibre Co. Ciro. Now, I used to work for the Fibre Co. Freelancing, and they released this yarn whilst I was still working there, and I got to have a play around with it. It's a lovely yarn. It's a really nice yarn. It's a blend of Surrey alpaca, organic cotton, and merino wool. So it's similar to like a silk mohair yarn in the sense that you've got that core, and the core is in this case organic cotton, and then it's got the Surrey and the merino that kind of is wrapped around that core, and so you get that lighter center and then the color of the yarn around it. The color is beautiful. It's kind of like a dusty blue, really, a color that I really like. It's one of my kind of, I would call my pop colors, you know, like my accent colors. And I'm going to design a sweater in this yarn. So this is let me pull this out. This is the mood board I am working with. So, you know, I'm thinking about kind of oversized layers, soft textures, beautiful detailing, kind of, I'm really into like this here, kind of, I'll show you how I translated it because it's hard to articulate why I like it, but I really like it. So what it will end up becoming is an oversized drop shoulder sweater. Sounds basic, and it kind of is, in the sense that it's a very simple sweater with an interesting construction and beautiful details, which is what I'm all about. So this is the front of the sweater. So you can see it's got nice wide sleeves, it's got deep ribbing, and you can see here it's got this detailing at the top of the sleeves, and you will also find the same detailing going across the back shoulders. I'm going to be using a similar method of constructing the drop shoulder from the top down as I used in my aspect cardigan, which is unreleased, but I am still working on it and getting it out. And it's essentially what you do is, here you go, here's my swatch. You work the shoulders, you cast on the full width of the shoulders, and then you work short rows to kind of create the shape of it. So you want to lift that centre back neck and then have the kind of slope of the shoulders. So this is what I have kind of come up with. And what I wanted to do with this one is have this just like simple ribbed stitch, which is actually based off a design detail in my Tempo top. Because I like that detail. I mean, how simple, right? It's not groundbreaking, but I just thought it was a lovely detail, and it would translate in a different way into this sweater. Very different feel, obviously, because, well, A, you've only got one stripe of that, but also having it in the kind of soft, fluffy yarn just gives it a totally different vibe. But I want to do that so that you cast on and then work that stripe and then work the short rows so that you get that beautiful arch of that particular stitch. And then, yeah, you just kind of pick up the front shoulders from there. I want to incorporate the back neck shaping into it somehow. I don't know, I've got ideas, but I need to finish writing up the pattern, and then I'll be able to cast it on, which I'm very excited about. This design I don't plan to release until September, so I've got tons of time. I think on my project timeline, I'm looking at having it done, like knitted up sample wise, by like mid-May. So I've got tons of time. But I like to give myself tons of time because I don't do well like under pressure. So I prefer having lots of buffer time, and I will really enjoy working on this. So yeah, that is one of the projects that I will probably be casting on next month. And then also, let me just put this down. And then also I'm going to be working on the Lonely Leftovers vest by Wool and Beyond. Now I've had this project on my mind for a little while. I really like it. It's just a cute design. And I feel like I would wear it personally a fair amount. But it's not been like top of the list until recently. So there is someone that I follow on Instagram who the styling is just top notch. The Instagram handle I will pop on the screen now. It's Dahana DCR, I want to say, I don't know. But yeah, they've got amazing style. I really am very inspired by the way that they dress, and they posted a reel of them wearing like this amazing layered outfit, and then for their outerwear they had like a kind of navy trawl coat, and on top of that they'd layered like a shearling vest that had a little tie, and it was in red, and it looked just phenomenal. It looked so good, and then as soon as I saw that I was like, whoa, right at the top of the queue. I need to make this. So that was kind of solidified by seeing Jenny from Future Fibre is knitting the Lonely Leftovers vest in Drops Alpaca DK. Drops Alpaca Boucle. I was going to say DK. Drops Alpaca Boucle, which is like kind of translating this shearling vest that I've seen into knit using the boucle. It was just perfect. So seeing their rendition of it just made me think, okay, I've got to do this. I know how I'm going to do it. I spoke to them and they said that the drops alpaca worked, but it just needed to be held with something else, which is what I was thinking. I was looking at kind of, you could potentially even like hold the alpaca double, even though they call it, I think, is it a sport weight? I can't remember, but basically I could have held the alpaca double and it would kind of give like the the meters per grams that I would have wanted, like based on the recommended yarn. But I do think double boucle is just going to feel too much. And actually the colours of the boucle that they have are just not quite right. And like I said, I'm fussy. So what I want is, if I'm going to do it, I want to have it in like that kind of taupey colour. Kind of like what I had for the socks, for the scrunchie, like that kind of taupe neutral. And they don't have quite the right shade in the boucle, but they have something very close. And actually if I held it with like maybe a strand of sock yarn or something, maybe even that exact yarn, I want to swatch up basically, then I feel like it would like bring the colour to where I want it to be. And then I want to do the like the kind of piping and the I-cord ties in a pop of colour. I was thinking, should I just keep it neutral? But I think looking at the pattern photos, it is kind of like a neutral with a pop of colour, and I love it. Like I feel like there's something really fun about that, and it feels like it would fit in well with my wardrobe. So I think probably what I'm going to do is have that kind of taupe as the base, and then introduce a pop of colour, maybe like a blue or a green, in that kind of piping and in the I-cord ties. So I'm still trying to decide colours. I have considered doing like a full solid colour one, like Dahana's vest, you know, like they had it in like the red shirling, and it just looks so good. So I was tempted, like, should I just do like a pink one or like a, I don't know, like a nice pop colour, but I think I want to go neutral boucle, because I can't find a boucle in the right colour that I would want to do it if it was like a full solid bright colour one. So I'm thinking go neutral with the boucle and then do the pop of colour in the detailing, and then maybe if I love it I could just like knit another one, and maybe use the recommended yarn for that one. I can't remember, I feel like it's a drops, is it drops Nepal, I want to say, drops Alaska, I don't know, but either way I could maybe use the recommended yarn for that and do it in, you know, like an all over bright, but it wouldn't be boucle. So I want to prioritise the boucle. I think it's going to be really fun. So that is a plan for next month. I'm going to cast that on probably once I've finished my Eva cardigan. So probably soon. I should order the yarn. I feel excited. It should be quite affordable as well, being in drops. I haven't really worked with drops too much. I hear mixed things about drops, to be honest, but that boucle looks exactly what I'm looking for, so I'm looking forward to trying it and it being quite pocket friendly too. So before we wrap up this episode, I just wanted to let you know that if you're ever interested in test knitting any of my patterns, then I encourage you to sign up for my special test knitting email list. It's basically a place where you can sign up. You're not going to get any other emails from me. It's simply whenever a test knitting opportunity opens up, you'll get notified and have the opportunity to apply. And it's just like a really easy way for me to let you know, without algorithms potentially getting in the way of whether you're actually going to hear about it. So I've got, obviously Nimble will be going for test knitting pretty soon once I finish the sample. I've also got my Alba's vest and my Aspect cardigan, which are due for going for test knitting pretty soon. So if any of those took your fancy, then do sign up for that list and I will notify you as soon as the test knitting opens up. So yeah, down in the description box, click the link and you can sign up. But thank you so much for joining me. I can't tell you how wonderful it feels to just like wax lyrical about knitting, my favourite subject, for endless amount of time. So thank you for letting me tell you all about what I'm working on. I hope you found it interesting or inspiring. Let me know in the comments what you've been working on whilst you've been watching this video, and if you enjoyed it, like and subscribe so that I will pop up in your feed on a more regular basis. Next week I'll be back with another knitting pattern design video, and then a month from now I will be also doing my next kind of classic podcast. So if either of those take your fancy, then make sure that you sign up and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye!